Welcome back everybody to the second video or the devlog of Super Cursor. I know it's been forever, it's been like 14 years, but basically we've been working on the game a lot, so it doesn't really make sense to make the second devlog now because the game is actually pretty close to its completion. So if you're watching this, it's probably out right now near the end of June of 2025, so make sure to go check it out. If you haven't already, you can try the demo, and if you like it then buy it. If not, then just checking it out would be pretty cool anyways. So after the first episode or the video, we basically talked about just how the game loop works, how the game idea came about, and how multiplayer works or the co-op. So after that, we didn't really talk about how the game, I wanted to kind of continue on with it, since this game was actually meant to be a pretty short game at first, but I decided why not make it a fully fledged game. So this actually became my first real project. So after that, after the first video, we basically decided to create a boss fight. So for the bosses that I wanted in this game, I wanted kind of a Windows themed game since your main character is a cursor. So the first boss I decided maybe could be the Windows 95, I think it's called the blinker cursor. So the one that I think blinks when you type. So I gave some attacks that kind of resemble that. So one of the attacks is that he can actually type and the words kind of get shot out at you, and I thought this was pretty cool because I can actually code it so that any word can be said and it will basically be, the collision would adapt to the size. So I thought that was pretty cool, so I just put some basic words like quit, leave, and run, kind of to make the player rage or kind of resemble that, and also made it so that the boss has some basic attacks since it's one of the early bosses. So right now he kind of just attacks you by just going at you from the left or the right or from the top as well. And on top of that, we also decided to create a soundtrack. So I wanted a soundtrack for each boss and chapter, which took a lot of time, but basically I think it was pretty good. I was actually pretty happy with most of the soundtracks. So that was the end of chapter 1 essentially after the boss fight. For chapter 2, I wanted to have a different twist to the game, so I made it so that you would lose vision of everything. So you would actually be in a castle and you would lose vision. And the reason why I chose the castle is because kind of like, with Mario, you're trying to go for a princess. In the same sense, you're basically trying to save the princess. She's in this castle, for example, but there's no lighting in this castle, so you actually lose vision, but you have to traverse the levels using lightning. So it's actually raining, so whenever there's a lightning, it would light up the room and you would have to move around. Now, the early stages of this isn't too hard since there's no moving objects, but later on it gets harder as there's moving enemies, and I also created enemies like the follow enemies, which would basically have vision, and if you enter the vision of these enemies, they would end up being homing enemies, then they would follow you until they would try to either kill you or you end up in the next level. On top of that, we decided to create a second boss after this, and just not to spoil anything, but this is probably the hardest or one of the hardest bosses, other than maybe like the last one. So I was actually pretty proud of this. I made this a keyboard boss, and there are different phases of the boss and different attacks that are color coded, so you would have to memorize it and kind of understand how each color coded attack works. And I think that this was a pretty fun boss. Honestly, the making was really hard but really nice, and I also like the soundtrack that I made for it as well. So yeah, that was the second chapter done, and I want to move on and go into the third, fourth, and fifth chapter. But off of the second chapter, I thought maybe we need to actually create some creativity with this game since it's starting to become a little more repetitive and it's hard to create unique levels without really having a twist to the game, since the game loop is essentially you can't touch anything and you die. So it's not really that many levels I feel like I can create with it. So that was actually an issue that I had going up into this third chapter. So for the third chapter, I decided to actually give the player a companion, and this companion is called, or the character is called Dottie the Bat, and she's a bat in a cave. and basically the character can use echolocation with objects to inverse the visibility. So certain objects are either orange or blue, and you can either see orange or blue at one time, but the bat can use the echo inversion ability to basically swap them. So it's kind of like you can't see in the castle, but instead you can see certain objects in this chapter. So this is the twist that I added to the third chapter, kind of like the second chapter. And off of there we have more, but I don't want to cover too much. We'll probably go over it in the third devlog. And yeah, that's basically just what I wanted to go through in this video. If you thought this was interesting, if you think the game is interesting, go ahead and wishlist it or even buy it. Anything will be appreciated, or even just like this video if you want. And if you don't like this video, then you don't have to do anything. If you got this far, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next devlog.